This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. It's your host, Tim Link, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. My special guest and our good buddy, our friend of the show, Boze Hadleigh, author extraordinaire, is going to come on board and talk to us about his latest book, Life's a Pooch, which is quotes about dogs by people who love them. So it's right up our alley. Lots of great quotes. We're going to talk to him a little bit about some of the quotes and how he put the book together and his writing styles as a whole. So it's going to be a fun and entertaining show as always. So everybody hang tight. We'll come back right after these commercial breaks. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Tired of wasting money on giant bags, boxes, and jugs of litter that don't last? Switch to World's Best Cat Litter, the only litter that lets you use less and get more. World's Best Cat Litter uses the concentrated power of corn to deliver outstanding odor control and easy cleanup. It's lightweight, 99% dust-free, and pet, people, and planet friendly. It's even flushable. Make the switch to World's Best Cat Litter and save $2. Visit www.saveonworldsbest.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. And joining me now is Boze Hadleigh, author extraordinaire. Now, Boze is, just to let you know his background, he's author of 23 books. Oh, my goodness. I don't know how I would take a breath in between things to get that many books done. But we're excited about each and every one of them. Boze is a friend of the show, and his latest book, Life's a Pooch, is ready and available for everyone. Boze, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, Tim. Glad to be on.
Oh, it's great to hear your voice. Great to have you back on. And congratulations on another fantastic book.
Well, thank you. It's a real labor of love, and I started it around 2000, and look how long it took. It just came out several weeks ago.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I could have that many quotes in a day, I think, if you just quoted me. I will have to say, I was kind of disappointed I didn't see any of my quotes in there, but maybe the next book.
Well, I am working on a cat follow-up, so if you have any cat quotes, sure.
Well, there you go. You just have to go online, go on my website. There's one that'll stare you right in the middle of the face.
I will do that, really, yeah.
That's right. I'm not opposed to begging for publicity.
The same as dogs, right?
That's right. That's right. Right up my alley. So tell us about it. You started in 2000. Walk us back through that time. It's like, how did that idea come about? What was the epiphany behind that? And then we're talking, a long period of time to get all these together. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, some of my books I've done because there wasn't a book on the topic and it interested me. Like I did a book years ago called Celebrity Feuds because surprisingly there hadn't been one. And I like quotes books. They're entertaining. They're fun. You can learn things that are interesting or useful and then share them with friends and relatives. But I had never seen a quotes book all about just dogs or just cats. So I started collecting both. And truth to tell, because I had a cat at the time, a Siamese named Rusty, I started in the late 90s with cat quotes. But then around 2000, after I was informed by editors, dog books are more likely to get published even though there are more cat owners, so I don't know how that figures. But anyway, I started collecting from just everywhere, magazines, newspapers, books, online, but you have to be careful because the internet has lots of fabricated stuff. You have to triple check. Also, I do travel a lot, and I speak 5 languages, so if I see something in an Italian magazine or a French newspaper, then I jot that down. And then also some are from interviews I did with celebrities. And if, for example, you're lucky enough to get to talk with, say, Sandy Dennis or Mary Tyler Moore, really animal-oriented people, they will often give you great quotes, but then they'll be kind enough to say, you should also contact so-and-so and so-and-so, and they'll give you great quotes. And it just keeps snowballing. But it's also a question of arranging them in separate chapters and categories so that it flows. So it isn't like, here's a quote about X and here's a quote about K. So there sort of goes A, B, C, D, E, that kind of thing. So it does take time.
Wow, that's interesting. I find a couple bits of what you just said just really intriguing in the fact that, celebrities willing to step forward and give their quotes and ideas and then turn you on to other. It's like, hey, if you talk to my buddy, Mary Tyler Moore or Betty White or.
Right. In fact, Betty White gave a wonderful blurb for Life's a Pooch. Read this with your dog. You'll both love it.
There you go. There you go. Well, I tell you, it's fascinating. I think, whether we're talking dogs or cats, animals in general, it's the common denominator. Wouldn't you think that everybody has some sort of relationship, either past, present, or going to have an animal in their life?
Right, or as a child or whatever it was, or the neighbor even, yeah. And the thing is with celebrities, some stars, it's all me, 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 and they will never talk about another celebrity, maybe about Marilyn Monroe or Elvis. But when it comes to dogs or cats, in fact, Anne Margaret said, I spoke with her briefly on the phone, she said, I hate interviews, I don't want to be interviewed about my life, but I love talking about cats, in her case. So that may be for the next book.
There you go. A little teaser for the next one. I like that. That's really fascinating. Well, then tell us a little bit about, I want to talk a little bit more about that process of how do you go about determining if these quotes are real and getting your sources, the research behind it. How does that process come about? And then are there times, I'll add on to that, are there times where you've maybe interviewed with a celebrity or talked to someone who's an industry expert and decided maybe that quote's not quite right for this this opportunity?
Right. And not only that, some quotes tend to repeat themselves because, for example, if you just have a quote from 3 celebrities and they're basically saying, I love my dog, I love my dog, you need something a little more specific or an example or something their dog did or what kind of dog. So it is true. Let's say for every 10 quotes you get, you might use 4 or 5 because you want the book to be really interesting and for each quote to stand out and not repeat. And as for verifying, well, see, that's the thing with books and magazine articles. They're edited, whereas the internet is not edited. And that's why minimum I triple check when it's that. Plus, one thing, though, Tim, is that quotes about dogs are not going to be very controversial. So it's not like you would have to check on a quote about politics or religion or someone's private or sex life. Dogs or cats, no one's going to sue. So, but you do want them to be real and that it's attributed to the right person because there are a few where you have 2 different people, like, say, Winston Churchill and Oscar Wilde, and it's the same quote. Well, now, Oscar Wilde was before Winston Churchill, so then you have to do some research. Did he really say it? And did Winston Churchill then say it? And then did someone in Hollywood then say it a third time? That kind of thing. Yeah.
And no, in Hollywood, they would never repeat themselves, would they, Boze?
They might repeat someone else, yeah.
Exactly. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. I think I'll slap my label on that or change one word in the quote.
Well, it's like Dorothy Parker, and she liked dogs, but she once said something very clever in front of a friend who said, oh, I wish I'd said that. And Dorothy Parker said, you will, dear, you will.
Love it. Exactly right. Well, I'm like you. I love quotes in general. I remember, in a previous life of mine, I spent, 20 years as a telecom executive in sales and marketing. And I used to use quotes, as a motivator. I would have them handy, or even going back to my early days in business where I would have a cubicle, and my cubicle would just be lined with famous quotes, whether it was animal quotes, whether it's just, things to do with business. So I think that what do you think the fascination is behind it? Why do we as humans tend to like a good quote?
Well, because it's brief, first of all. You don't want a quote that goes on and on. You can have, let's say, 3, 4 on a page instead of a whole page. The person will tend to skip that one. They're distilled. They're just the essence of something that's clever or informative or witty. And, they've been sort of modeled. Very often celebrities, when they issue quotes, they're not spontaneous. They've worked on it. Like, for example, Mae West, with all her hundreds of things that were quoted for decades, she worked on those behind the scenes. And people thought, well, isn't she clever? Isn't she witty? And she was. But again, there's all the work behind the scenes. And then, as somebody once said, reading quotes saves original thinking. There it is. You have it. You don't have to come up with it yourself.
And once again, not to bash on Hollywood, but original thinking is at a premium nowadays, I believe, with all the remakes and everything going on.
Sure.
So what, when you were uncovering this, are there quotes that you have come up with that you thought were particularly well received, or did you steer away from that and focus just on particular industry experts and celebrities?
Well, now that's another thing. It is a combination of celebrities, but also experts. For example, 4 times in the book is quoted Dr. Roger Mugford, who is a British animal behaviorist. He trained the corgi dogs of Queen Elizabeth. So there is lots of useful information and surprising things, and things that if people aren't that into dogs, that maybe they should know if they're considering, or various people have told me, well, I didn't know that you should do this or you shouldn't do that. For example, if you have an older dog, to play Frisbee, you have to be aware of the dog's condition, because when they jump up and twist their spine to catch that Frisbee, that can lead to or exacerbate if they have rheumatism or a spinal problem. You know, it's one thing for a young dog, but again, people tend to think very often of animals as ageless, because, you know, they pretty much look the same at 2 as they do at 12, that kind of thing, unlike people, let's say, 28 and 82, obviously. But, yeah, there is useful stuff as well as funny stuff, surprising and entertaining stuff, and it's just a question of putting it all together, so that it flows. That's one thing. And just quotes that people like, but also quotes that will... Again, I try with my books to be both entertaining and enlightening, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. But in other words, to do both of those things, so that, yes, they have a good time, but they'll also come away with certain things and say, I didn't know that, or I'll remember this, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you do a great job of that. And, and I like the book. Maybe it's my short attention span to things, but it's a perfect book for me.
Really? Well, that's the one thing about quotes also. They are brief, and the thing about a book like this, or any quotes book, you can just dig into it on page 80 and just start reading. You don't have to do 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick a section that resonates with you, or just some quotes right off the top.
Right.
So I have to ask you, in dealing with this book and other books that you've done where we're talking about quotes or particular sayings, where particular sayings that we're familiar with come from, etc., are you, in your opinion, are you very good at remembering quotes and who they came from, or are you abysmal like me and I have no idea and I can never say it right or who it came from?
Well, no, I do have to say, without bragging, I have an excellent memory. Not photographic. Some people will say, oh, he has definitely not, I wish. But no, I do have a very good memory, and I find that you have to, because sometimes you'll have a bunch of quotes on different pages or on the computer, different places, and you have to remember, now, did this one go with that topic or that person, or did someone repeat or say something very similar, that kind of thing. And again, organizing is important. For example, in Life's a Pooch, one of the 5 chapters is called A Universal Tongue. What it is dogs on the screen, on TV and in movies, and because we've all seen everyone from Benji to Beethoven to Matisse and down and out in Beverly Hills and on and on. So if you're interested in how dogs are portrayed and represented and misrepresented, then there's that chapter. Or there's a chapter on pampered pooches, the way that some people will spoil their dogs, which can be very funny or outrageous.
And so when putting together these particular chapters, did you have an outline of, okay, these are the X number of chapters I want in this book, and I'm going to go out and try to find good quotes for those chapters? Or was it more of, I'm going to collect as many of these great quotes as I can, and then we'll create the chapters as we go along?
That's it, because that sort of shapes the chapters. With dogs, of course, you can always, and the same with cats, you can always say, you can have a chapter on how people love their pet and what they do and funny little stories, one about the media and animals, and one about culture and animals and how dogs have shaped human culture and how humans have literally shaped dogs, which have the most plastic genes of any mammal. That's why you have so many different sizes and shapes of dogs, unlike cats, which are basically one shape. And one size for house cats anyway. So, yeah, it does tend to fall into certain categories. And, again, you don't want too many chapters, but we have 5 chapters, and I think that's a good... Again, the book is, reasonable length. And what really surprised and pleased me was it's a hardcover with a beautiful dust jacket with 3 darling little dogs on the cover. And I don't know if I should say this, it's $15 for a hardcover. I've had books that were $15 for paperbacks, no illustrations, but this one was printed in China, so I guess that made the difference. I was very surprised.
Oh, maybe you should leave that last part out because it sounded so impressive until you said the C word there.
Oh, right. I know, where they sometimes eat dogs. And that's in the book, too, very much about dogs. I mean, it's not dwelt upon, but there are some wonderful animal activists, including here in Southern California, who visit China and Southeast Asia undercover, and they go to dog-eating fairs and festivals and they try and rescue the dogs. And also, for example, in Macau has replaced Las Vegas as the number one gambling destination on earth, and they still do greyhound races, and there are people trying to stop many of these practices that are harmful to animals.
Absolutely, absolutely. And big kudos to them for doing so. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break and then come back and talk a little bit more to author Boze Hadleigh about his book, Life's a Pooch. And I want to talk to Boze a little bit about his writing styles and how he creates such fascinating ideas for books. So everybody, hang tight. We're going to come back right after these commercial breaks. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
If you've ever shared your home and heart with a charmingly naughty animal who's always up to mischief, you'll fall in love with the Klepto Kitty who stars in Talk to the Paw by Melinda Metz. Talk to the Paw is a funny, heartwarming novel about a single girl, a single guy, and MacGyver, an adorable tabby cat with a not-so-adorable habit of stealing from the neighbors. Talk to the Paw is on sale now everywhere books are sold. Visit kensingtonbooks.com for more info.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynovite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynovite.
Dynovite for life.
Pick up 2 tubes of Doggosuds.
Get the 3rd tube free.
Peppermint, tea tree, lavender, Doggosud shampoo.
Made with all-natural coconut, jojoba, aloe. Great for healthy skin and soft, shiny coats.
But no itchy, harsh chemicals.
Lather up, rinse away.
Try Doggosuds. Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynovite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Continue our conversation with multi-author Boze Hadleigh and his latest book, Life's a Pooch, quotes about dogs by people who love them. So, Boze, when everybody goes out and picks up a copy of this book and thumbs through it, loves it, earmarks their favorite quotes, hopefully don't steal them for themselves. What do you hope they get out of the book? What's your main goal, or do you have several goals?
Well, one of the things is simply to be more aware how amazing animals are, pets, dogs and cats. They really are more amazing. The more you learn about them, the more impressed you are by them. That's one thing. And then also by the fact that, yes, here in the U.S., here and now, we love animals. We treat our dogs very well, but boy, if you go back a century even, it wasn't quite the case. Dogs had to earn their keep. They were fed scraps. There was no pet food you could go and shop for, in the supermarkets. That came about basically after World War II. And very often the dog slept outdoors. That was that. People wouldn't think of having it indoors. And it wasn't always, for the kids. It was for practical reasons. So again, just the awareness of how better treated dogs are today than they were, and how they should be, and how they aren't in all of the world. Having traveled to over 60 countries, I've seen very sad situations, and you have certain cultures and one religion that very much is anti-dog. And in most of the world, in the U.S., if you compare someone to a dog or this or that, it's not a big deal, but in much of the world, it's a real insult. It's sort of a fighting challenge.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that. How do you see that culture, whether it's a religious culture or a particular country culture, when you see someone from a particular heritage or particular religious background, but they come to the United States either to visit or to live? Do you see them changing their ideas and philosophies to better understand?
Very little, and I can say this because my parents were from other countries as well. Most people who come here, they come not for, the stereotype of freedom. Of course, there is far more freedom, but it's for economic opportunity for themselves and for their children. And when they come from what we call third world countries, no, basically people will not adapt very much in their thinking. I mean, publicly they will say so, but then you go into their homes and talk with them in their groups, and they carry on the same habits, And if they didn't like dogs in, let us say, Pakistan, they're not going to like dogs here. It's an unfortunate thing, but, people don't change that much. And maybe neither do animals other than learning tricks. And by the way, one of the myths that is exploded in this book, an old dog can't learn new tricks? Of course it can. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always a learning experience, and they're always willing to and eager to learn. That's part of that, especially when you're talking about dogs and cats.
Yeah.
It's mental stimulation. The more they can learn, the better they thrive, And
Exactly. Just like people as they get older, to avoid, say, Alzheimer's, I was reading recently the biggest thing you can do, because it's the biggest intellectual undertaking, is start learning a new language, and which has benefits, obviously, especially when you travel, but it keeps the brain younger and rejuvenates it even.
Yeah,
so learn Spanish or French.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think taking a dog's cue or cat's cue and continuing to learn and be fascinated with things, try something new, step out of your comfort zone is key. But and the languages, I will say, and it's very interesting because I think it does stimulate your brain. I think it grows that giant muscle you have on your shoulders by learning the languages. But also, it's with culture today. When you look at just the United States as a whole, we've always prided ourselves on being this great melting pot of people. But, in the early days, it was mostly Eastern Europeans. And now it's a whole plethora. And you're interfacing and living among them. It's not I know when I was growing up, there would be sections of town, and you see it in bigger cities, Koreatown, Italian town, whatever it may be. Now it's a great conglomeration. I just look at my own neighborhood. Fortunate enough to build a new house a few years ago, and 80 homes in the new community, and talk about a mixture of folks in both the religious and cultural blends. It's quite fascinating. It's something I've never fully encountered in other places I've lived.
Right, and the thing is, though, when people do come from other countries, at least they do see in the U.S. or in Britain that it is a very pro-pet culture. So if they don't like dogs, they keep it to themselves. And then the good thing is then their kids will be much more influenced by the American or British culture and grow up to love dogs and treat them well. So the people directly from those countries, that's one thing, but then their kids growing up here, that's another thing. And then you also mentioned about mental stimulation. Just reading a book is quite a mental stimulant, and I have read in various places reading nonfiction does more for those little gray cells than reading fiction. I don't know why. Maybe because of facts and retaining facts. Because, you'll read most novels, the end, and then that's it, you forget about it. But with books, you may retain a lot of certain facts and information. So again, that's helpful too.
And as a writer of nonfiction books like myself, I am glad of that.
Yes, likewise. Same here.
So I'm going to put that on my little resume. If you don't like my books, well, at least you get more educated. Your brain will grow if you read my books.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that. So then, going back to your writing styles, when you put together a book, this one, it was a long time in the making. Do you find yourself writing multiple books, starting on one and going off to a different topic, or do you stick to one particular one? I mean, how do you generate that as a writer?
Well, when it's a quotes book, then it is, of course, not a full-time thing because you're collecting off and on. In 1 month, you might collect 2 good quotes, or you might collect 24 good quotes, and so you just file them away. Whereas now, if you were doing a novel, and I came back from my mom's house in San Francisco, and it is cold up there compared to here in Los Angeles. Anyway, depending on the project, but no, quotes books are very much off and on because of the collecting nature. But if, for example, like when I did a book called Celebrity Feuds, well, you work on a certain feud. Again, these are, let's say, 20 chapters, 20 different feuds, like Laverne versus Shirley, or Diana Ross versus the Supremes, Batman versus Robin, in real life, the actors who played them. Then it depends. You get, and another thing, some things are just very interesting. So when you find out all the contract disputes between the actresses in Laverne and Shirley, you stick with it till you're done, but then it's just one chapter. Some topics, if it's one overriding theme, then you want to do that, and you might stick with it for almost all of 6 months, full time, pretty much. But it depends what comes along. And the wonderful thing is, Tim, is that when you're a writer, you can interrupt yourself. You can go somewhere or do something else and come back to your writing. And of course, with a computer or a laptop, you can do it anywhere in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's key, in the fact that when I'm writing, it's not like I would say the old days, at least for me, when I'm writing an article or writing a book, whatever it may be, that I have to stay focused on that and get that thing done. it's not that way. I mean, we have so many other abilities, maybe just through writing for so long, I've gotten skilled to the point where I could start something and then pick up another topic and start writing on that while that one's, simmering in the background or waiting for someone, a celebrity, for instance, to get back with you with a quote. That would be, I think I've spent more times with people that said, "Oh yeah, I'd love to give you, an endorsement, a quote for your book," and then when it comes time to do it, you have to track them down somewhere.
Very much so, yeah. And of course, as you know, the only exception is when you have a deadline. Then you, of course, stick with it till you meet that deadline. I recently did something different. I was asked, "Would you like to caption 170 photos of Marilyn Monroe?" And I thought, "Oh, that won't be difficult," because I had done a book called Marilyn Forever a few years ago, which was all quotes about her by people past and present. And so I undertook it. Well, wow, this was a full time for 2 months, but just full time, finding out who was the photographer, when was it taken, where was it taken, and then all the contradictions on the internet. Well, I met the deadline day before yesterday, but anyway, I met the deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the key. And because deadlines, you're under contract to get it done. You're obligated to do it. And of course, you want to get paid. That's
and to be responsible, sure, because you agreed to do it, so you do it and do it as best you can. Sure.
Absolutely. All right, then. Well, what, as far as your writing in general, as far as your commitment to it, your styles, there are some authors that love to get up at 5:30 in the morning and start cracking away at it, or there's others that are like, I'm doing 20,000 words today, do or die.
Right.
Are you more like that, or going back to what we just said? The deadline's here, I got to get cranking on this thing.
Right. No, I keep the deadline in mind. I wouldn't leave it toward the end because then the quality might not be there. But I happen to be a night owl, and sometimes I do business with Japan. So when it's nighttime, say 11 p.m., then it's next afternoon in Japan. And so I'll often work between, let's say, 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. and then go to bed, then up by the crack of noon or so. But yeah, and I don't think you need to, unless you're maybe a novel writer, to say, I will do 2,000 words today. You cannot do that with quotes books, obviously. It wouldn't happen and the quality would suffer. Then you'd be collecting quotes that are not of interest. But everyone has their own pace and what works for them. And, after you've been doing it a few years, after I've been doing it, let's say 5 books worth, then I figured it's not when you get up, how well you use your time when you are awake that counts.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good quote. I'm going to steal that quote right there. It's what you do in the time that you have.
As opposed to early to bed, early to rise. That's great for some people, but not for some of us.
That's right. Yeah, if you ask me to get up at 5:30 in the morning and start writing, that's not going to happen. Sorry.
Really?
There has to be some big money involved in that for that to happen. So. All right. We're coming to the end of the show today. I want to give you an opportunity to leave us with how people can find out more about you and all your books, any events going on, things so they can keep track of all this wonderful writing you're doing.
Well, I don't have a website because, the thing is one keeps busy enough with writing books as opposed to, of course, one has to help publicize them, but doing a whole website and all that. But you can just Google the name, Boze Hadleigh, and Hadleigh is the British spelling with Hadleigh instead of Ley. Sorry about that. But Life's a Pooch, you can just Google it. I don't think there's any other book with that title. I did a book a few years ago called Holy Cow. Well, there are about 6 minimum books called Holy Cow, including one novel. But Life's a Pooch is a unique title. And I must admit, I did not come up with that. That's a great title as opposed to Life's a Bitch. So, you just go online. It's very easy to find out, about books. And also at the library, that's another thing. People patronize the public library. And if the library doesn't have a book you want, whatever it is, just recommend it because you are part of the tax-paying public. So we're very fortunate in the U.S. to have wonderful library systems.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Take advantage of those, and I think that's, Boze, I have to say, that's the first time I've heard an author actually tell people to go to the library and look for his books.
Well, yeah, because, sometimes people are strapped economically, and even though this is a very low-priced, beautifully done hardcover, you can go to the library and read it as well. And, of course, some people read ebooks. I've never done that, but it is available as an ebook as well.
There you go. So everybody go out and get a copy in some fashion or another and enjoy it. I love those quotes. And once again, it's Boze Hadleigh, Life's a Pooch, quotes about dogs by people who love them. Boze, thanks for coming back on the show today. Congratulations again for a wonderful, wonderful book, and we'll look forward to talking with you again somewhere down the road.
Well, who knows, on a cat's book. And thank you, Tim, and keep up your excellent work, too.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the show today. I want to thank everyone for listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. I want to thank our producer and sponsors for making this show possible. If you have any questions or comments, you can always email us at PetLifeRadio. We'll be glad to entertain the people you want to see most, answer your questions, and hear from our fans out there, or at least our listeners. We appreciate that. So until next time, write a great story about the animals in your life, put it in a blog, a book, or an article, and who knows, you may be the next guest on Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Have a great day.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.